Hi, welcome to the Rob and Bird podcast. I'm Rob.
And I'm Bird. We're here to bring hope and motivation to those in the struggle. We're in it too. We cannot afford to give up.
We're basically cheerleaders. The road to success will be hard, but we want you to know you're not alone.
All right, well, let's get to it, Rob. What do we have diving into today's episode?
Well, Bert, what do you expect to get out of your endeavors? What do you expect to get out of making your artwork?
Um, just to be able to finish a good, inspiring film. Honestly, it sounds naive, but that's what I really look forward to. Something that I can be proud of. Part of it is yes, make money, but the I don't want to make money on such a like crappy film or terrible film. But I do expect that it could do some sort of positive change or get people thinking about certain concepts of the world.
I can relate. I'm writing a story, and I definitely have the idea of I want it to be an inspiration that no matter what kind of hole you're in, you can always find your way out somehow.
Yeah, that's a good way to go about making a film, in my opinion, and I think that's good that you're doing that. Even based on your book and the story you've been writing for some time, your character shows some level of tenacity and, of course, a lot of grievances and struggles. But along that, those storylines that you've been explaining to me in the past, there is some hope and this level of will just that goes beyond, and it's like they're saying not today and not for me. I don't want to stay here. And that's something really important, I think, in general, with our expectations, of course, within ourselves. We sometimes get caught up in all the noise and thinking we're not up to the task. But sometimes you have to have that expectation for yourself to go further than that, and just take it as a moment to challenge yourself, a step at a time.
Expect great things of yourself.
Yes, because you could do it. I mean, it's um like, I know this sounds silly. You're probably not into this, Rob. The anime Dragon Ball Z. I mean, by Akira Toriyama, and he created the character Goku. And when he's born, he's like not strong at all. He's super weak, and these guys who observe his power level, they're like, yeah, he's not gonna be but another Saiyan. And the kid next to him is Brawly, and he's like the promising, powerful warrior. And at some point in the future, him and Goku have a fight, and this guy Brawly super strong, and not only does he is he so strong, but he gets even stronger in the conflict. And it was like a David versus Goliath, and the one that wins, of course, at some point was Goku, along with his friends, of course, helping him. But he defeats him, and that was like an like attainable feat for a Saiyan against a Saiyan of that strength and level. But the point is yeah, it's about not seeing yourself in the moment now as incapable or just not talented enough, but observing yourself to a point where you go, you know what, I'm gonna push myself further and figure out what I need to do to shine out there and not compare myself to others.
I feel like that's a common theme in a lot of hero stories. I mean, there's Luke Skywalker's from Star Wars.
Certainly.
He he joined Obi-Wan on his trip and like became his apprentice, and his journey, there was a lot of hardship. He had expectations of this is what it means to be a Jedi, and even when Han questioned him about it, he Luke had that bravado that I know better than everyone else. When it like you just don't believe in the Force. And then later on in the movie, he loses Obi-Wan, and then quickly a lot of things change, and people expect certain things out of their goals, lives, their achievements. But then sometimes things take a turn for the worse.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at those scenes as like they kind of it's like seeing the great mentor fall, and then you're just like, "Whoa, if this one goes down, how am I able to compare to the next, you know, next person to take over? How can I even achieve such a goal that they have become?" It's like the way I see it, it's like similar with in Lord of the Rings when Frodo sees Gandalf, fall to Balrog. It's similar to Star Wars's Luke Skywalker seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi fall to my head, Darth Vader. I was confusing people, but you get my meaning. Like, and so such main characters, they thought they could do it, and then realize how vast these individuals were, and then to fall, they kind of just don't see themselves being able to attain such a high level goal. But what tends to happen is in those moments over the hero's journey, they slowly, as they progress, and they push themselves to just try because they know they should. They have to at some point to achieve their objective. That they start to see what their mentors were showing them, were trying to teach them, and they attain those goals at some point. And it's incredible in the end because it's like that's when they have to decide when should they achieve that expectation. Like, oh, do I stay being? I can choose to be the good guy or the bad guy, and I have all this power. So, but those before them, who chose to do good with such power, at that level, hope that the expectation is returned in them.
The dark side is a quick and easy path.
Well, I hope you didn't turn to dark side, Rob. I keep trying to bring you to the light, but not quite there yet.
But as you were saying about the hero's journey, like it always starts off with the hero having these vast ideas that they can accomplish what others cannot. And then they hit that first road bump, and it's not going to be as easy as anyone thinks it is.
Yeah.
That's something that people need to understand, not just about art or music or acting, theater. It's also in starting a business or even just going on an interview or a first date or even just going up to the cashier and asking for a cheeseburger. All endeavors start off with a step, and it's not an easy step.
Yeah, and speaking of businesses, starting businesses and going into an industry, all of these arenas have a level of expectation. Some way more specific and I guess higher than others. It's like imagine, I don't know, working in a nuclear facility. There's definitely expectations there of how things need to be done for things to work. Or working in say clothing factory, or in a grocery store, a restaurant, a Michelin star especially. All these places have these expectations and level of attention that need to be achieved in order to sustain what they have there, and what people when they go in there, like a restaurant, expect.
I mean, look at doctors and scientists.
Yeah.
There's a certain expectation that once they get their degree, they just go into the job and that's it. But the thing is, that science, that medicine, it's a continuing education. That's why it's called a practice. You learn something and then you keep at it, and then you learn something more. You very often, these doctors and scientists go to conferences regularly because it is about the continuing learning, the continuing excellence. Excellence is a practice. not a final destination.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with art. Granted, there's a lot more expectations for scientists and doctors, a lot more grave consequences. But the idea is still the same. Regardless of what you go into, you're going to have to learn and keep learning. And it's not going to be a cakewalk.
Yeah. It does get competitive too. I mean, if you think about, well, I would say more in the artistic and writing arenas and those stuff, because it's like you have people with such great talent and also with a great work ethic, that they are always expressively showing their work to show how far they're going with their ability to animate, storyboard, direct, making music, acting, voice acting, writing these stories down, editing. And at times it I would say having what's important is having a good, healthy, strong expectation, and always make sure you're not overexhausting yourself. It's important to always take a step back and try to remain yourself, to not burn out.
It's important to keep things in perspective.
Yeah. I mean,
Try to figure out what's important to your life. Is busting your back for this project, is it actually what you want? Maybe it is. I hope it is. But if it's not, that's fine too. As I said in the first episode, to quote Fraser Crane, try something. If it's a mistake, do something else.
oh yeah, that could work too. Yeah, because it gets pretty. So I would say like it's like films like that I've seen. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it, Rob Black Swan. I thought that was a great film, but it shows an example of the main character having such a high expectation, but also showing the sacrifices and the pains once one goes through being a ballerina dancer, and especially the main character going above and beyond on insane levels to get the role she's been fighting for. She goes through insane levels to get there, and it's like, but it ends up costing her so much more than it should. At such a dangerous level where it's like now it doesn't even matter. Your health is in danger.
Yeah, there's a lot of athletes that have similar things in that they train constantly to get to the Olympics or get to the playoffs, whichever arena that they go to. And going to something more personal, I have a friend who used to play the violin, but turns out playing the violin started hurting his neck, and that became a problem. So he had to switch to a new instrument, and that in and of itself was a problem.
Hmm. Yeah, that's difficult. I mean, sometimes some people, it's you realize like things, just the body eventually gets to a point where it's telling you that it needs to stop for a moment or even for a while, depending on the situation and the severity of the issue. It's important to be able to watch that part of yourself first and foremost, then the task that you want to do with the what you're passionate about. Sometimes you could hurt yourself more than you think, and then you realize you have to take a break, you have to slow down, you have to stop, because then it just costs, the costs get greater. There is that part where I think, yeah, I'll admit, even for me, I had pretty high expectations, I would think, as an animator and in storyboards. But there were times where I started realizing, the changes I going through, and I had to make sure that I took significant breaks when necessary, regardless of the competition and all of the art that's being made out there. I have to take care of me first, because then it means nothing if I can't do it. And it's something I notice in the art community as well. I don't think I'm the only one, obviously, but there are others that just work themselves to the bone nonstop. Some give away sleep and rest, and sometimes that's okay, but it's not always good when it's continuous. Eventually, you really at that point just torturing your body and your mind. And it's always important to have some level of peace and balance in your mind and in your heart, because when you're creating art, your art suffers, and it will begin to suffer, and it will show because they'll see that you're just over exhausted and just over burnt out. But yeah, but I'd say it's always important to make sure you have decent expectations that you can handle first, starting small, and it's like setting goals and moving upwards, and basically winning those challenges and those tasks. Even if it's just, you know what, I'm going to work on one film for a year, keep it under 3 minutes or less, whatever, and look at where I can submit my film to what festivals and what events. Even if it's just that, that's something. That's better than just sitting down and not doing anything for yourself.
Your first game, you're not going to score a touchdown. Well, you might, but are you going to bet on it? You know?
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, and some could think, yeah, well, what if I work so hard on this and put myself on that expectation, and then start to expect that I'm gonna say it's so low that they're like, oh, I don't even think I'm gonna make it. Like my whatever I just create this year is going to be not noticed. There's so many things out there greater than my work, and then, but the problem with it is like you're working on this, and then all of a sudden you stop and you don't do it because you get uninspired. At that point, it's like you're missing out on the chance that you could be making something amazing that someone's going to say, this needs to be on this network, or this needs to be on this channel, or this needs to be a show or a movie or a book, whatever. It's you're missing out on that possible opportunity. There's definitely the 100% possibility of you not doing it at all, that it won't get noticed, and that's it. And not the most greatest artists or writers get noticed right off the bat. Sometimes even they take time. So it's important to also definitely have expectations for yourself, but don't compare yourself so much to the degree that you stop and stun your growth.
Well, there's that question. What is it that you want to do? Why are you making your art or persisting with your endeavors, starting a business or whatever? Are you doing it because you want to make money? Are you doing it for fame? Are you doing it for someone else? Or are you doing it for yourself? Because what happens if you fail? What happens if you cannot garner the attention that you want? Would you still want to do it?
Yes. Money. No, I'm kidding.
Well, that's the question. Is
Well, that's the thing.
if you
Yeah.
didn't get a dime for it, would you still want to do it?
Yeah.
I still plan to write if something happens and I can't make money off of it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on I think, it's, I know you asked that question. And it makes you think too, like, if money alone is the main motivator, it should be a motivator, but not the main motivator. But if it's the only motivator, you're not gonna go far. I mean, if you look at like some of the big studios these days, I think they tend to go on some of the trends that are out there, and what's cool to put into shows, but not really focus on taking the risk as much as they do with taking their work into something that would sell. Like when they recreate movies, animated films that we've watched long and remember, and they recreate a live action version of them. and they do some money. They do create some money and input, but at the same time, they're not as memorable as the original. And the original themselves had some risks because they weren't done before. And yes, you could argue it was a different time. But the difference is that when you focus on thinking that it could fail or not, then now you've distracted yourself from going into it. You have to figure that out for yourself. What is it, like Rob said, what do you want to do? What is your goal? What is your end goal? And if you don't achieve some of them, you'll learn through that lesson what you missed and what you attained. And it's important to get both.
That's not to say replication is a bad thing. A lot of artwork is based off of other artwork, something that came before. So don't don't be concerned about following a trend, but don't intentionally follow a trend because of externalities. Is it a story that you want to tell, you want to retell, or is it because other people want to hear it? That's something that I think artists should be thinking about.
Yeah, it's important to not just be. I mean, take a chance. I'm of the stance of take a little chance, make something you really want to do. Like, what was it that you wanted to do when you were young? What was that motivated you to go into the industry you're in? And then see what it is and what you want to do if it's possible. And granted, yeah, it doesn't hurt to do something that's been done before. If that's what you like to do, then do it. I think that's something good to go for. But yeah, I'm more of the go out there and draw, make it happen. And it's important to also, what's good is when you meet other, say you create a film and it's out there and you go to these events, you end up meeting other people and you start to see how they lay out once you get to know them closer enough, how they lay out their expectations of their own work and what motivates them and whose work they are been inspired by.
That's the thing. A lot of artists tend to be very introverted, but
Yeah.
if you want to improve, you got to go out there. You got to talk to people. You got to figure out what everyone else is working on
Yeah.
because they might have a shared vision with you, and then you can rely on them to help you improve on your craft.
Yes, totally. I could say from my experience as well. Like I, even where I work, I know an artist there. He's a director. He's a great guy, and me and him will talk about each other's updates on work on our film. Like I'm working on my short film. He's working on his, and he does more of a mixed practical effects work, and it's amazing the way I think people like him think when it comes to problem solving. And I look at how he handles a scene when he puts the props together and a small like miniature set background, and then he'll look at my stuff and see how I draw, and then tells me ideas of how I could change an angle and how I can trick the camera in After Effects, for example. And it's an amazing thing, and the standards just go even higher because now we're pushing each other to do something and then every week just catch up and go like, hey, what did you get done? Oh, I did this. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool shot. And then I show him whatever frames I did and animated. um you know, it's great to have people be out, go out there when you can, if you have a film or short something portfolio, to meet others and see how they place their expectations on their work, just so you know what you should be doing to push yourself every time. But also, the networking part is what really sticks out in those events. Like, you get to know people and they can actually help you get to the individuals that lead you to work.
Yeah, I know I've gotten jobs from Birdian when I was in animation, and even now, you before animation and currently, I've had people that I could talk to about my writing. I have an English teacher who's also an author that I talk to, and then there was a fan fiction board that you would post whatever stories you had, and everyone would be able to comment and talk about their work.
Mm. Yeah. I think yeah. That's see that's I was just say that's good because and I mean I don't know who this birding guy you're talking about is, but good on him. No, no kidding. And no, it's if anything, Rob, I do think you're a serious person, and I do like having you to work with you and stuff. So, and you bring in challenging points, so it's really good to have people that challenge you on your goals and your especially your expectations because they'll help you ground you and say, hey, wait a minute, maybe that's a little harsh on yourself. Maybe you're not quite there yet to throw yourself on that level yet. Try and go with this level, and then especially when they explain to you why. Um, but with that said, I mean, yeah, I really think Rob, your book, from what I've been hearing and a little bit of reading on my part from what you sent me in the past, I think it's coming along well. If it means anything for me, and definitely when it's out there, man, you let me know. I'd be there. I'd be excited.
There's an old saying: "It is not the knowing that is difficult, but the doing."
Mm, good one. I'll say, well, thanks guys for listening, and really hope to hear again from you soon. Definitely let us know in the comments what you'd like to hear from us to talk about subject wise. We hope this all inspires you and gives you some food for thought. You have a great one.